Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday to you. It's Good Friday. It's the day that we remember the death of Jesus for us. And so I do pray that you are mindful of Christ today. I pray that he's especially near to you. And I pray that your celebration of his death and resurrection this weekend is an incredibly meaningful and rich experience for you. I love you so much. My name is Tim Harris, pastor of Woodburn Baptist Church. It's the end of another good week in the Word here on 10 with Tim. We've been going verse by verse of the book of Acts, and today we're in Acts chapter 3, verses 1 to 11. This episode that we talk about today is going to sort of spark a series of events that will take us all the way through chapter 4. So this moment is really pretty amazing. It's honestly one of my favorite sections in all the book of Acts. I love chapters 3 and 4. So Peter and John are traveling together. Peter and John are going up to the temple one afternoon to take part in the 3 o'clock prayer service, it says. There were designated vigils, prayer times through the day, and this 3 o'clock service is an important one, not only because it's a designated time of prayer, but because it's one of 2 different times of sacrifice, daily sacrifice at the temple. So this 3 o'clock prayer / sacrifice time is probably going to be one of the biggest crowds of the day, one of the most important moments of the daily worship schedule at the temple. So Peter and John are going up to pray. I think that's interesting. We forget how all of the earliest disciples were Jewish, and they saw no conflict, no contradiction whatsoever between being Christian and being Jewish. We read yesterday how the first Christians were daily in the temple. They would go to the temple and worship as Jews, and they would be in their homes worshiping as Christians. And in their minds, Jesus was the Jewish Messiah. Jesus was Jewish. And again, for us now, it's just probably hard for some of us to recognize how these early Christians considered to see themselves as very faithful, maybe the most faithful kind of Jew, because they had received the Jewish Messiah, Jesus. So Peter and John go up to the temple at 3 o'clock, and there as they approach the gate called Beautiful, they encounter a man lame from birth calling out for alms. Now, this man's been lame from birth, which means he's always dependent on somebody else to bring him up to the temple. And that's what somebody does. They bring him out for the big crowd at 3 o'clock, and he's just calling out for alms. He's probably like a broken record, alms, somebody help the poor, alms for the poor. He's just a broken record. And people probably, toss coins into his hat because there were 3 pillars of the Jewish faith, the Torah, worship, and almsgiving. And so sort of like us, they considered helping the poor something that they should be doing. So anyway, the beggar is there, the lame man is there, and that's where he's always been. Probably this is his spot, and he was probably a very familiar face for people. If he's been a lame beggar all of his life, and if this has been his pattern, then he's become familiar. People have seen him, people know him. Peter and John are coming by. He says, alms for the poor, alms for the poor. Peter and John stop and they look at him intently. I think this is amazing. And they ask him to look at them. This is going to be a personal encounter. Usually we don't make eye contact with the poor person. We don't really want to have to get involved. We just sort of toss money in their hat and keep going. But Peter and John said, hey, look at us. And the guy's probably thinking, oh my goodness, they're about to write me a check for 1,000. They're about to give me a big wad of cash. So he looks at them like, yeah, And then they say, yeah, we don't have any money. Silver and gold we do not have, but what we do have, we give to you. In the name of Jesus, get up and walk. Amazing. This is most like one of Jesus's healing stories. Do you see that? One of those in the Gospel of Luke, for example, that Luke himself would have written. It's most like a story of Jesus's healing. Only the big difference here is that Peter does not heal in his own authority. He heals in the name of Jesus Christ the Nazarene. Jesus healed by his own authority. Peter heals in the name of Jesus. But the point of that is the work of Jesus is ongoing now in the work of the disciples. So Peter continues the work of Jesus in the name of Jesus. Took the lame man by the right hand, helped him up as the man did. The man's feet and ankles were instantly healed and strengthened. He jumped up on his feet, began to walk. Then walking, leaping, praising God, he went to the temple with them. That word there, leaping, it's a rare word in the New Testament. It's halomai, I believe. it comes from the Old Testament word in Isaiah, where in a messianic prophecy, it says that the lame will leap like a deer. So I think it's intentional that Luke goes back and brings back that Old Testament kind of word. The lame leap like a deer. Halomai, this man leaps and goes tearing out into the temple with Peter and John. Anyway, I love this story for the way you could read it both ways. I like to read the story and identify with the beggar. Actually, I don't like to read the story and identify with the beggar because I'm not a guy that easily asks for help. I don't ask for things. But honestly, I think what we learn from the beggar is that we should ask for what we need. You just ask for what you need. To ask makes me recognize that I'm not perfect in myself, that I'm not self-sufficient, and I want to be so. I want to not need anybody's help. But there is no virtue in not asking for help. Understand that? We should ask because it's literally foolish not to ask. God works through his people. God does all of his work through his people. And so not to ask means we cut ourselves off from the very way in which God would meet our needs. So ask, and then accept graciously what people give you. I used to tell my son, he was going up, and like, son, I'm trying to help you. Don't make it hard for people who are just trying to help you. So if someone is giving to you, then accept graciously what they give. It's no fun. And I say, I don't want to be the beggar, but sometimes I am the beggar. And then sometimes I'm Peter and John. And I like this idea that if the beggar asks for what he needs, Peter and John give what they have. You just give what you have. This is honestly just how all of this works. You ask for what you need and you give what you have. And this is how God cares for his people. And it's how we serve the Lord. As I said, they look straight at him. They make this a personal encounter. Understand, seeing one another is very, very important. And often we go through life avoiding eye contact because we really don't want to get messed up with other people's mess. But Peter and John, it's what they do. They look intently at him. They ask him, hey, look at us. It's going to be personal. And I love that. I like the way they don't get all caught up in what they don't have. The man says, hey, alms for the poor, alms for the poor. And they say, listen, we don't have money. That would be the end of it for me. Sorry, I don't have any, I'm out of money. I don't have any money. I don't have any cash on me. That would be me. But the amazing thing is, like, if he'd known that they could give him legs, he would have never asked for money in the first place. But this amazing thing, he looks up at them like, oh my goodness, they're about to give me $1 million. They said, sorry, dude, we don't have any money. And at first he's thinking, oh, shoot, But then what we do have, we give unto you. Get up and walk. Oh my goodness. So don't focus on what you don't have. Don't focus on what you can't do. Focus on what you can do. Give what you have, because it could be the very thing that you have. It may not be what they're asking for, but it could be the very thing that you have is what God knows that they need. So you give what you have, because I remind you, God works through his people. God works through his people. It's how God's going to provide for your needs, and it's how God provides for the needs of others. He uses people. And I think by now you recognize it's a blessing to be a blessing. It's a blessing to be used by God. It's a blessing to be able to provide what somebody needed, or in some instances to provide what they didn't even know that they needed, or what they never would have even thought to ask for. But I just love it so much. They all rush out in amazement. Again, once more, the people respond with amazement. They rush out there to Solomon's colonnade, where the man was holding tightly to Peter and John. And then where we pick up on Monday, verse 12, Peter saw this opportunity, man. This is a great opportunity for witness, Peter says. And he immediately begins to preach. I love this so much. It's a great opportunity to witness this man now who's been laying there for all of these years, suddenly leaping like a deer through the temple. Oh my goodness, people are amazed. And Peter's about to share the gospel. I love this so much. But now this is going to lead to a lot of trouble, as I'm sure you're not going to be surprised. We'll pick up right there on Monday morning. It's Easter weekend. God bless all of you. The Lord is risen. He's risen. He's alive. And the fact that he lives has changed my life, and I know that it's changed your life as well. If you don't have a place to worship on Easter Sunday, Woodburn Baptist Church at 6:30, at 8, 9:30, and 11. We have a 6:30 service. It's the same as all the other services, 6:30, 8, 9:30, 11. If you're an early bird, then come join us for our early morning Easter service. I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. I can't wait to worship on Easter Sunday with you. So again, if you don't have a church home, join us. And on the other side of Easter, Lord willing, I'll see you on Monday morning, 10 o'clock for 10 with Tim. We'll be in Acts chapter 3, picking up with verse 12, verses 12 to 26. We'll finish out Acts chapter 3 on Monday morning. Okay, listen, happy Easter, happy Friday, and I will see you on Monday morning, Lord willing, for 10 with Tim. I love you all.